My brother manipulated me into giving him my life savings, then used my foster son to smuggle substances. So I set him up, got him arrested, and took my power back in the most devastating way possible. When our father died, my older brother Marcus stepped up and became the male figure in my life that I needed. At first, he was my hero, charismatic and confident, always smiling in that warm, carefree way. Whenever our mom came home exhausted from her second job, he was the one to make us dinner and tell jokes at the kitchen table until we laughed. Back then, he seemed like he could fix anything. But by the time he hit 16, things changed. It was small stuff at first. 20s disappearing from mom's purse, cigarette butts on the kitchen counter. Whenever mom confronted him, he'd cry big, messy tears, promising he'd never do it again. I believed him every single time. Mom would sigh and say she hoped so, but her voice got quieter each time. Pretty soon, she stopped confronting him altogether. In our 20s, the pattern was so clear it hurt. Marcus would only call when he hit rock bottom. Sometimes it was a frantic plea from a police station. Other times it was a desperate cry from outside his landlord's apartment, begging me to wire money so he could avoid eviction. Each call left me shaking, but I always picked up, because no matter how bad Marcus got, he was still my brother. And each time when he promised me he'd change, I let myself believe him again. Meanwhile, I poured my energy into social work, helping kids whose families couldn't care for them. Work gave me purpose, even though my personal life took a backseat. I skipped dates, passed on vacations, and kept delaying plans to buy my own home because every extra dollar ended up bailing Marcus out again. Then I met Mia. She was 7 and shy, with huge eyes that looked like they'd seen too much already. Mia's foster placement had fallen through, and she clung to me whenever I visited, like I was her last hope. Soon I realized I was ready to adopt. I spent months saving up for a down payment, working late shifts, and even selling some of my things. It was finally my turn to be happy. That's exactly when Marcus showed up again, desperate and pale, telling me he owed money to some dangerous guys. He was practically shaking as he begged, saying they'd unalive him if he didn't pay. My stomach twisted. Marcus knew about Mia, but what choice did I have? He was my brother. I handed over my savings. A week later, I found out Marcus never had debts to dangerous guys. He used the money to gamble and go on a Dubai trip with his girlfriend. The adoption agency called shortly after, gently telling me Mia would have to be placed elsewhere because I no longer had adequate housing. I broke down, sobbing until my chest hurt. When Marcus texted me later, asking for more money because family comes first, something inside me snapped. "You're not my family," I told him. "You're a parasite." I blocked Marcus's number that night and told our mom I wouldn't discuss him again. It hurt, but for the first time in years, I felt free. 2 years later, things finally felt steady. I bought a modest house and was fostering Tyler, a quiet 15-year-old who trusted almost no one but started opening up around me. But then Marcus called out of nowhere, his voice weak and strained, begging to meet. When I saw him, he was skinny and jaundiced, clutching medical paperwork confirming liver disease. He cried in front of me saying how sorry he was. He claimed losing me had finally woken him up. My chest tightened. Part of me desperately wanted to walk away, but I couldn't shake the guilt. After my doctor friend confirmed Marcus's diagnosis looked legit, I cautiously let Marcus back into my life, making it clear I'd never bail him out again. For months, Marcus was the brother I missed. He went to support groups, got a steady job, and even bonded with Tyler. Watching Marcus make Tyler smile made my heart swell with hope. Maybe, just maybe, he really had changed. But that hope shattered one afternoon when I got home early. Marcus and Tyler were gone. Nothing seemed off at first, until Tyler texted me, "Please help." Panic instantly shot through me. I called, but Tyler didn't answer his phone. I grabbed my phone, tracked his whereabouts, and sped to the rundown abandoned apartment building in a rough neighborhood his location showed. When I burst into the room, Tyler was staring at me, eyes wide with fear, a backpack stuffed with substances at his feet. Marcus stood there, smiling coldly, perfectly healthy. "Did you seriously fall for the liver disease thing?" He laughed at me. "You're still the same gullible little sister." This kid made the perfect mule, who'd check a scared teenager. Tyler looked so scared his legs were literally shaking. I asked Marcus to give me Tyler, but he blocked the doorway, shrugging casually. I should have been scared at that moment, and I was, but I wasn't worried. Police were on their way. I had called them before leaving the house as soon as Tyler texted me. I told this to Marcus, and his face just dropped. He started screaming, yelling, and as he was, sirens started sounding in the distance. The next few minutes were complete chaos. Marcus tried to grab the backpack from Tyler, but Tyler kicked it away. Marcus lunged for me, but I dodged him. He was halfway to the window when 2 police officers burst through the door with their guns drawn. They ordered everyone to get on the ground. I immediately complied, telling them I was the one who called. Tyler dropped to his knees, hands up, looking terrified. Marcus tried to run. He shoved past one officer and made it to the hallway before they tackled him. I heard the thud and Marcus yelling as they cuffed him. One officer stayed with us while the other dealt with Marcus. I kept trying to explain that Tyler was innocent, that he was my foster son who'd been manipulated. The officer was professional but firm. They had to take Tyler in for questioning too. I rode in the back of a separate police car, following them to the station. The whole ride I kept thinking about how I'd failed Tyler. I'd let Marcus back into our lives, and now Tyler was paying the price. At the station, they separated us all. I sat in a small room for what felt like hours, explaining everything to a detective. Marcus's history, how he'd faked his illness, how he must have been grooming Tyler for this. I showed them texts from Tyler asking for help. I explained my job in social services and Tyler's foster situation. The detective seemed sympathetic but kept asking the same questions in different ways. Did I know about the substances? Had I ever participated in any of Marcus's schemes? Was Tyler involved willingly? I answered truthfully each time, but my anxiety kept climbing. What if they didn't believe me? What if they thought I was somehow complicit. After about 3 hours, the door opened and a different officer came in. She told me they'd confirmed my story with my employer and that Tyler had given a statement matching mine. They were releasing him to my custody, but we'd both need to make formal statements later. Marcus was being charged with multiple felonies, substance trafficking, endangering a minor, and a bunch of other charges I couldn't even process at that moment. When I finally saw Tyler in the waiting area, he looked smaller somehow, hunched in on himself. I approached him slowly, not sure if he'd even want to be near me after what happened, but as soon as I got close, he practically collapsed against me, sobbing into my shoulder. I held him tight, apologizing over and over. The drive home was silent. Tyler stared out the window the whole time, and I couldn't find the right words. When we got home, he went straight to his room and closed the door. I sat at the kitchen table, my head in my hands, wondering how I could have been so stupid. I'd let Marcus manipulate me again, and Tyler had almost paid an unthinkable price. I called my supervisor at work and explained the situation. She was understanding but concerned, saying we'd need to report the incident to Tyler's caseworker. There would be an investigation to determine if my home was still suitable for Tyler. The thought of losing him made me physically ill. That night, I barely slept. I kept getting up to check on Tyler, just standing outside his door listening for any sound. Around 3 a.m., I heard him crying. I knocked softly and asked if I could come in. He didn't answer, but he didn't say no, so I opened the door. Tyler was sitting on the edge of his bed, a hoodie pulled over his pajamas like he was thinking about running. My heart sank. I sat down beside him, keeping some distance between us. "I'm so sorry," I said. "This is all my fault." Tyler wiped his face with his sleeve. "Marcus said you knew. He said it was just one time to help the family out." The betrayal in his voice cut deep. "Tyler, I swear to you I had no idea. Marcus lied to both of us." Tyler nodded slightly, like he wanted to believe me but wasn't sure he could. "He started talking to me about a month ago. Just little things at first. He'd give me money for helping him with stuff. Then he started saying you were having money problems and we needed to help out." Each word was like a knife. Marcus had been manipulating Tyler for weeks, and I hadn't noticed a thing. I'd been so happy to see them bonding that I'd missed all the warning signs. The next morning, Tyler's caseworker, Janine, came to the house. She was a no-nonsense woman I'd worked with professionally before. Now I was on the other side of her clipboard, and it was terrifying. She interviewed us separately, taking detailed notes. When she was done, she told me Tyler would remain in my care for now, but there would be weekly check-ins and both of us would need to attend counseling. As she was leaving, she pulled me aside. "You should have known better," she said quietly. "You of all people." Her words stung because they were true. I should have known better. I worked with vulnerable kids every day. I knew the signs of grooming and manipulation, but when it came to my own brother, I'd been blind. The next few weeks were hard. Tyler was withdrawn, spending most of his time in his room. I tried to give him space while also making sure he knew I was there. I took time off work to be home when he got back from school. I made his favorite meals, small gestures that felt pathetically inadequate. 2 weeks after the incident, I got a call from the prosecutor handling Marcus's case. They wanted Tyler to testify. The thought of putting him through that made me sick, but the prosecutor explained they needed his testimony to make the charges stick. Without it, Marcus might get a plea deal and be out in just a few years. I talked to Tyler about it that night. He was quiet for a long time, then asked, "Will I have to see him?" "Yes," I said, not wanting to sugarcoat it, "but I'll be there the whole time, and they can arrange it so you don't have to look at him." Tyler nodded slowly. "I'll do it." The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following month. In the meantime, we started therapy, individual sessions for Tyler and me, plus joint sessions once a week. Our therapist, Dr. Chen, was patient and insightful. She helped Tyler process his feelings of betrayal and fear. With me, she focused on my pattern of enabling Marcus and my guilt over what happened to Tyler. "You've been conditioned since childhood to rescue your brother," she told me during one session. "Breaking that pattern is like breaking an addiction. There will be setbacks." I wasn't sure if she was preparing me for something or just stating facts. Either way, she was right about the setbacks. 3 weeks after Marcus's arrest, my mom called. She'd been to visit Marcus in jail, and he'd told her his version of events, that I'd overreacted, that he was just having Tyler hold some medicine for a friend, that I'd called the cops because I was jealous of their relationship. The worst part was, my mom seemed to believe him. "He's your brother," she said, her voice cracking. "He made a mistake, but he's family." I'd heard those words so many times before. Family, as if that excused everything, as if family meant letting someone hurt you over and over again. "He used Tyler to transport substances," I said firmly. "He put a child in danger. That's not a mistake, Mom. That's a crime." She started crying, begging me to drop the charges. I had to explain that I couldn't drop the charges even if I wanted to, which I absolutely did not. The state was prosecuting Marcus, not me. When I refused to help her get Marcus out of jail, she hung up on me. That night, I broke down after Tyler went to bed. I sat on my kitchen floor and sobbed until my throat hurt. I mourned the brother I thought I had, the mother who couldn't see past her denial, and the normal life I'd tried so hard to build for Tyler and myself. The next morning, I woke up to find Tyler had made breakfast, just cereal and toast, but the gesture nearly made me cry again. We ate together in comfortable silence. It felt like a tiny step forward. Then my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Marcus, calling from jail. "You need to drop this," he said without preamble. "You're ruining my life over nothing." I should have hung up immediately, but something kept me on the line. "You used a child to transport substances, Marcus. You manipulated him and put him in danger." Marcus scoffed. "He's 15, not 5. He knew what was happening. He trusted you," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "We both did." Listen, Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. These guys I'm working with, they're not going to be happy if I go down for this. They know where you live. They know about Tyler. My blood ran cold. Are you threatening us? I'm warning you, Marcus said. Family looks out for each other. I hung up and immediately called the detective handling the case. I reported the call and the threat. They took it seriously, sending a patrol car to drive by my house regularly for the next few days. I also called our lawyer, who filed for a restraining order against Marcus. That night, I sat Tyler down and told him about the call. I didn't want to scare him, but he needed to know. The police are watching the house, I assured him. And Marcus is just trying to intimidate us. He doesn't have guys. He's always worked alone. Tyler nodded, but I could see the fear in his eyes. What if he gets out? He won't, I said with more confidence than I felt. Not if we tell the truth about what happened. The next day, I installed a security system. Cameras, motion sensors, the works. It was expensive, but Tyler's safety was worth every penny. I also spoke with his school, alerting them to the situation and making sure they knew not to release Tyler to anyone but me. A week later, we had another therapy session with Dr. Chen. Tyler had been having nightmares, waking up in a cold sweat. In the session, he finally opened up about what had happened that day with Marcus. He picked me up from basketball practice, Tyler said quietly. Said you asked him to. He seemed normal at first, but then he drove to that building and told me to take the backpack inside. When I asked what was in it, he got mad. Said I needed to stop asking questions and just do what he said. I felt sick listening to him describe how Marcus had threatened him, saying if Tyler didn't cooperate, Marcus would tell me Tyler had been stealing from me. It was such a calculated manipulation, playing on Tyler's fear of losing his home. When we got inside, he told me to wait while he talked to some guys in another room. Tyler continued. That's when I texted you. He came back and caught me with my phone out. He grabbed it and threw it against the wall, but I guess the message went through first. I reached out and squeezed Tyler's hand. You did exactly the right thing. Dr. Chen helped us develop safety plans and coping strategies for the anxiety we were both feeling. She also suggested Tyler join a support group for teens who had experienced trauma. At first, he was resistant, but eventually agreed to try one session. The support group turned out to be a turning point for Tyler. Meeting other kids who had gone through difficult experiences helped him feel less alone. He started opening up more at home too, talking about school and his friends again. Small signs that he was healing. 2 days before the preliminary hearing, I got a call from the prosecutor. They'd found more evidence on Marcus's phone, texts to his supplier about using Tyler as a mule, plus photos of other kids he'd apparently used the same way. The case against him was getting stronger, but that night, someone smashed our front window. Tyler and I were watching TV when we heard the crash. I pushed Tyler behind me and grabbed my phone, ready to call 911, but whoever it was didn't come inside. They just threw a brick with a note attached. Drop the charges or next time we come inside. The police came quickly. They took the brick for fingerprinting and increased patrols in our neighborhood. They also suggested we stay somewhere else for a few days, just to be safe. I called my friend Susan, who lived in a secure apartment building with a doorman. She agreed to let us stay without hesitation. That night, as Tyler and I settled into Susan's guest room, I felt a mixture of fear and determination. Marcus was escalating, which meant he was desperate. The prosecutor confirmed my suspicion when she called the next morning. Marcus had been offered a plea deal, but it still involved significant prison time. He'd refused it, insisting on going to trial. His lawyer probably told him to take the deal, she explained. The evidence against him is overwhelming. He's looking at 10 to 15 years minimum if this goes to trial. The day of the preliminary hearing arrived. Tyler was visibly nervous, picking at his breakfast and barely speaking. I wasn't much better. We'd been prepped by the prosecutor about what to expect, but nothing could really prepare us for seeing Marcus again. The courthouse was intimidating, all marble and echoing hallways. We were taken to a small room to wait. Tyler sat close to me, his leg bouncing nervously. I put my arm around him, promising it would be over soon. When they called Tyler to testify, I walked with him to the courtroom door. I couldn't go in with him since I would be testifying later, but I gave him a hug and told him I was proud of him. He nodded, took a deep breath, and went inside with the victim advocate. The 45 minutes he was in there felt like 45 hours. I paced the hallway, checking my phone every few seconds even though I knew no one would be texting me updates from inside. Finally, the door opened and Tyler came out, looking drained but relieved. You did it, I said, hugging him. How are you feeling? Okay, he said quietly. Marcus kept staring at me, but I didn't look at him much. The victim advocate, a kind woman named Reese, assured me Tyler had done well. He was very clear and consistent, she said. The judge seemed moved by his testimony. Then it was my turn. Walking into that courtroom, seeing Marcus sitting there in his jail jumpsuit was surreal. He looked thinner than when I'd last seen him, with dark circles under his eyes. When our eyes met, he gave me this smile that made my skin crawl, like this was all just a game to him. I took the stand and swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor led me through my testimony, my relationship with Marcus, his history of manipulation, how he'd faked his illness to get back into our lives. I described finding Tyler at the apartment and what Marcus had said about using him as a mule. When it was the defense attorney's turn, she tried to paint me as vindictive, suggesting I was trying to punish Marcus for past grievances. She implied I might have known about the substances and turned on Marcus only when I got caught. I stayed calm, answering truthfully and not letting her rattle me. The whole time, Marcus watched me with that same unsettling smile. When I described his fake liver disease, he actually chuckled, like it was a clever prank instead of a cruel deception. The judge noticed and frowned at him. After I finished testifying, the judge ruled there was enough evidence to proceed to trial. Marcus was led away in handcuffs, but not before he turned to look at me once one last time. The hatred in his eyes was palpable. Outside the courthouse, Tyler and I took a moment just to breathe. It had been an exhausting day, but we'd gotten through it together. As we walked to the car, Tyler surprised me by taking my hand. "Thanks for not giving up on me," he said quietly. I squeezed his hand. "I never will." That night, we ordered pizza and watched a movie, trying to return to some sense of normalcy. Tyler fell asleep on the couch, and I covered him with a blanket, not wanting to wake him. He looked peaceful for the first time in weeks. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This isn't over." I blocked the number immediately and took a screenshot to send to the detective. I wasn't going to let Marcus intimidate us anymore. The next morning, I woke up to find Tyler already dressed and eating breakfast. He looked up when I entered the kitchen. "I want to go back to school today," he said. "I'm tired of hiding." His courage amazed me. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "I can't let Marcus control my life anymore." I drove him to school, watching him walk inside with his head held high. Something had shifted in him after the hearing. He seemed stronger, more determined. I felt a surge of pride mixed with worry, the eternal parent combination. When I got to work, my supervisor called me into her office. I braced myself for bad news, but instead, she told me they'd reviewed my case and found I'd handled the situation with Tyler appropriately. My job wasn't in jeopardy. The relief was overwhelming. "You're a good social worker," she said. "And from what I can see, you're a good foster parent too. Don't let what your brother did make you doubt that." Her words meant more than she could know. For weeks, I'd been questioning every decision I'd made, wondering how I could have been so blind to what Marcus was doing. Hearing someone I respected tell me I hadn't failed completely was like a weight lifting. That afternoon, I picked Tyler up from school. He actually smiled when he got in the car, telling me about a science project he was working on with his friend Jamie. It was such a normal teenage conversation that I felt tears prick my eyes. We were finding our way back. The prosecutor called that evening with news. Marcus had changed his mind and accepted a plea deal. 8 years with possibility of parole after 5. He would plead guilty to substance trafficking and child endangerment. In exchange, they were dropping some of the lesser charges. "He won't be bothering you for a long time," she assured me. "And with his record, the parole board isn't likely to be sympathetic when the time comes." I thanked her and hung up, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Relief that it was over, sadness for the brother I'd lost long ago, and cautious hope for the future. I told Tyler the news over dinner. He nodded solemnly, pushing his food around his plate. "Do you think he'll ever change?" Tyler asked. "Like, really change?" I considered the question carefully. "I don't know. I used to think so, but now, I think some people don't want to change. They just want to keep taking whatever they can get." Tyler nodded again. "I'm glad he's going away. Is that bad?" "No," I said firmly. "It's not bad at all. It's honest." That night, I sat on my porch swing, watching the stars come out. For the first time in as long as I could remember, I felt at peace with my decision to cut Marcus out of my life. The guilt that had plagued me was finally starting to fade. My phone rang. "Mom." I hesitated before answering. "I talked to Marcus's lawyer," she said without greeting. "He told me everything. About the substances. About using Tyler." Her voice broke. "I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. It wasn't a complete apology, but it was a start. Thank you for calling, Mom. Is Tyler okay?" she asked tentatively. "He's getting there," I said. "We both are." After hanging up with Mom, I sat on the porch for a while longer, just breathing in the night air. It felt like the first real conversation we'd had in years. Not perfect, but a start. When I finally went inside, I found Tyler sitting at the kitchen table with a notebook open. "What are you working on?" I asked, grabbing a glass of water. He shrugged. "Just writing some stuff down. Dr. Chen said it might help." I nodded and gave him space. The fact that he was actually following through with therapy suggestions was huge progress. I headed to my room but paused when Tyler called my name. "Do you think we could visit Marcus before he goes to prison?" The question caught me completely off guard. "Why would you want to do that?" Tyler fidgeted with his pen. "I just want to ask him why. Like, why me specifically?" My first instinct was to say absolutely not. The thought of Tyler anywhere near Marcus made my stomach turn. But Dr. Chen had talked about the importance of not dismissing Tyler's agency in his own healing process. "Let me think about it," I said finally. "And we should discuss it with Dr. Chen first." Tyler nodded, seeming satisfied with that answer. The next day, I called Dr. Chen and explained Tyler's request. She wasn't immediately opposed, which surprised me. "It could provide closure for Tyler," she explained, "but only if he's truly ready and only with proper supervision." We scheduled an extra session to discuss it further. In the meantime, life continued its slow return to normal. Tyler went to school, played basketball, and even invited a friend over to work on their science project. I went to work, cooked dinner, and tried not to jump every time the phone rang. The prosecutor called with details about Marcus's sentencing hearing. It was scheduled for the following month. She asked if either of us wanted to make victim impact statements. Tyler immediately said yes. I was more hesitant. "You don't have to decide right away," she assured me. "Just let me know a week before." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what I would say to Marcus if given the chance. All the words I'd swallowed over the years bubbled up like acid. I got up and wrote it all down. Not a formal statement, just a purging of emotions. It felt good to get it out, even if I never said any of it to his face. At our next therapy session, Dr. Chen helped Tyler and me talk through the pros and cons of visiting Marcus. She was careful not to influence his decision either way. "I need to do this," Tyler said firmly. "I keep having nightmares where I'm back in that apartment, but this time no one comes to help me. I think I need to see him locked up to know he can't hurt me anymore." Dr. Chen looked at me. "What are your thoughts?" I took a deep breath. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Scared that seeing him will undo all the progress we've made. Scared that he'll say something to hurt Tyler even more." Tyler reached over and squeezed my hand. "I can handle it. We both can." His confidence swayed me. I agreed to arrange a supervised visit, with strict conditions. Marcus would be handcuffed, guards would be present, and we could leave at any time. The prosecutor helped set it up for the following week. The day of the visit, I felt physically ill. I almost called to cancel 3 different times. Tyler was quiet but determined, dressed in his nicest jeans and a button-up shirt like he was going to a job interview instead of a jail. The visitation room was stark and institutional. Metal tables bolted to the floor, uncomfortable chairs, guards stationed at the doors. We sat down and waited. When they brought Marcus in, I barely recognized him. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow. The orange jumpsuit hung on his frame. He shuffled in with small steps, limited by the chains around his ankles. For a moment, pity welled up in me. Then I remembered everything he'd done, and my resolve hardened. The guard secured his handcuffs to a ring on the table and stepped back, still watching closely. Marcus looked at me first, his expression unreadable. Then his eyes shifted to Tyler, and something like shame flickered across his face before disappearing. "You wanted to see me," Marcus said flatly. "Here I am." Tyler sat up straighter. "I want to know why you picked me. Was it just because I was there, or did you plan it from the beginning?" Marcus looked surprised by the directness of the question. He glanced at me, then back at Tyler. "It wasn't personal, kid. You were convenient. Living in my sister's house, easy to manipulate. Nothing more complicated than that." The coldness of his answer made my blood boil, but Tyler just nodded like Marcus had confirmed something he already suspected. "Did you ever actually care about me?" Tyler asked. "Or was it all fake?" Something shifted in Marcus's expression, a crack in the mask. "I liked you," he admitted quietly. "That wasn't fake. You're a good kid, smart, funny sometimes, but when I needed money," he trailed off. Shrugging like that explained everything. "You could have just asked me for help," I said, unable to stay silent any longer. "Not for money, but for real help. Rehab therapy, something." Marcus laughed bitterly. "You think I haven't tried that? Rehab is just a revolving door for guys like me." "Guys like you choose to make it a revolving door," I countered. "You never really wanted to change." He didn't argue with that, which told me everything. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of years of deception and disappointment hanging between us. Finally, Tyler spoke again. "I'm going to be okay," he said, his voice steady. "I wanted you to know that. What you did was messed up, but it's not going to ruin my life." Marcus looked genuinely startled. He opened his mouth, closed it, then simply nodded. I felt a surge of pride so strong it brought tears to my eyes. Tyler was showing more maturity and courage than Marcus had in his entire life. "We're done here," I said, standing up. Tyler followed suit. "Wait," Marcus called as we turned to leave. "I am sorry, for what it's worth." I looked at him for a long moment. "Take care of yourself, Marcus." We didn't look back as we walked out. In the car, Tyler was quiet, staring out the window. I didn't push him to talk, giving him space to process. Finally, as we pulled into our driveway, he spoke. "I don't feel bad for him," he said. "Is that wrong?" "No," I answered honestly. "It's not wrong at all. But I don't hate him either," Tyler continued, sounding confused by his own feelings. "I just feel nothing." "That's okay too," I assured him. "You don't owe him any particular feeling." Tyler nodded, seeming relieved. That night, he slept through the night for the first time in weeks. No nightmares, no waking up in a cold sweat. It was a small victory, but I celebrated it silently. The sentencing hearing came faster than expected. Tyler had worked with Dr. Chen on his victim impact statement, practicing it until he could get through it without his voice shaking. I decided to make a statement too, though I rewrote mine a dozen times, never quite capturing everything I wanted to say. The courtroom was more crowded than for the preliminary hearing. Mom was there, sitting in the back. She gave me a tentative wave when we arrived. I nodded in acknowledgement but didn't go over. There would be time to talk after. Marcus sat with his lawyer, wearing a suit that hung on his thin frame. He looked defeated already, like he knew what was coming. When the judge entered, we all stood, then sat again. The proceedings moved quickly. Statements from the prosecutor about the severity of the crimes, a half-hearted defense from Marcus's lawyer. Then it was our turn. Tyler went first, walking to the podium with his paper clutched tightly in his hands. His voice started shaky but grew stronger as he spoke. "What Marcus did made me feel worthless," he said, looking directly at the judge. "Like I was just a tool to be used. But I'm not worthless. I have people who actually care about me. Real care, not fake care to get something from me." I saw Marcus flinch at those words. Tyler continued, describing how the incident had affected his sense of trust and safety, but also how he was working to move forward. When he finished, the judge thanked him, genuine respect in her voice. Then it was my turn. I walked to the podium, my prepared statement in hand. But when I got there, I set the paper aside. "My brother has been manipulating me since we were kids," I began. "Each time I believed he would change. Each time I was wrong. The difference now is that his actions didn't just hurt me. They endangered a child I'm responsible for protecting." I talked about the pattern of enabling I participated in, how I'd always put Marcus's needs above my own, and how that had to stop for both our sakes. "I don't want my brother to suffer," I concluded, "but I need him to face consequences, not just for what he did to Tyler, but for his own sake. Without consequences, he'll never have a reason to change." The judge nodded thoughtfully. After a brief recess, she returned to deliver the sentence. 7 years with possibility of parole after 5, mandatory substance treatment in prison, and no contact with Tyler or any minors upon release. As the bailiff led Marcus away, he looked back at me one last time. There was no smile now, no manipulation, just a tired resignation. I didn't look away until he was gone. Outside the courthouse, Mom approached us hesitantly. She hugged me first, then turned to Tyler. "I'm sorry for what my son did to you," she said simply, "and I'm proud of how brave you were in there." Tyler nodded, accepting her words without comment. We agreed to meet Mom for lunch the following weekend, a small step toward rebuilding that relationship too. 6 months later, life had found a new rhythm. Tyler's nightmares had stopped completely. He made the varsity basketball team and started talking about college. I returned to full-time work, and and my supervisor recommended me for a promotion. Marcus wrote me a letter from prison. I read it once, noting that it sounded more genuine than his usual manipulations, then filed it away. Maybe someday I'd be ready to respond, but not yet. My focus needed to stay on Tyler and on building the stable life we both deserved. On the anniversary of the day I found Tyler in that apartment, we went out for ice cream to reclaim the date. As we sat in the park eating our cones, Tyler looked at me seriously. "I've been thinking about something," he said. "When I turn 18 next year, would it be weird if you adopted me? Like, legally?" The question caught me completely off guard. "You want me to adopt you?" He shrugged, suddenly looking younger than his 16 years. "Yeah, I mean, if you want to. You're already my family. Might as well make it official." I blinked back tears, my ice cream forgotten. I'd be honored. That night, I sat on the porch swing again, listening to Tyler playing video games inside. The stars were bright overhead, and for once, my phone wasn't buzzing with crisis calls or desperate pleas, just silence and